Hi everyone, welcome tonight. Like when I spoke to you on Monday night, I spoke about the different styles of attachment. So there's primarily 4 different types of attachment, and attachment theory has been around for decades in the world of psychology. And attachment is a really important thing to, I guess, understand where you sit on that continuum of different types of attachment, but also how that affects the various behaviours that occur within a romantic relationship or any relationship that you have throughout your life. Research has shown that not everybody experiences love exactly the same way, so it's easy, I guess, to fall into the thought process that we watch movies, we see people in love, and it's a very stereotypical way of falling in love. And we just assume that everybody feels love the same way that we do, just like a lot of emotions that we have, we think that everybody feels it exactly the same way. Hey, Tom. Now, there's 6 different main categories that are classified in what psychologists would call being in love. So not all of them are necessarily healthy. Some people may straight away think, hang on, that doesn't sound like love, that's a bit whacked. But then there's some people who will relate to it and it seems perfectly normal to them. And that's just, we're all different. So the first one is Eros. So Eros is the way that people experience love as, I guess, what you probably see a little bit more in the movies. So it's passionate, it's intense. They're very much based on both emotional and physical closeness. So it's that typical, I guess the way a lot of people idealise love, that people want to be physically close, but they also want an emotional closeness there as well. So it's not like obsessive, but it is still a very passionate start, like you would expect, most loving relationships to start out fairly passionately and intense in those first few months or year or however long sort of that honeymoon phase starts. So that's what Eros is about. Then we have Ludus. So Ludus is a bit different. Again, it's more for those who see love a little bit more as a game. So for them, it's almost like a power control thing, love, because obviously there's a lot of emotion involved. And with that, I guess people can manipulate a situation. So if someone is in love with you, they're more likely to do things for you that they wouldn't normally do for somebody else. Now, obviously, if you've got people on the same page, they're caring, they want the best for their partner, everything's great, but not everybody thinks of it that way. Some people actually see it more as a control manipulation, and almost like you'll see people who fall into this category often find that they need multiple partners, and they almost see it as an achievement to be able to manipulate the other person and have a sense of control over them. Then you get Storge. Storge is a little bit more like the tortoise out of the Hare and the Tortoise. So they plod along very slowly. They're very slow to express feelings of love. So they will bond with somebody, they develop a friendship, common interests, but it takes them quite a while to get there, to what they would call being in love. And it's not uncommon for people who express love in this way to fall in love with a friend. So someone that they've actually developed a friendship with over a long period of time. They have a closeness, they have common interests, and then all of a sudden the penny drops, okay, I'm in love with this person. Then you have Agape. Now Agape is a little bit like Eros, the first one, but it's more in focus of nurturing. So it's more the person who wants to take care of you. So they want to, hey Andrew, they want to almost be like a mother figure to you. And they can be a male as well. It's not necessarily just females who fall into this category. There's plenty of men who have that nurturing instinct as well, and they just want to take care of the person they love. Then you have Mania. So Mania, if any of you know the song that Rihanna put out a year or so ago, We Fell in Love in a Hopeless Place, and it sort of looks in the video clip about, I guess, a couple that, are into recreational drugs, they live on the wild side, and it's all just very hot and heavy to start with. They do a lot of risk-taking behaviour. That's typical of Mania. So these people fall hard and fast. They get very obsessed very quickly. They do a lot of risk-taking behaviours. They lose their sense of identity. So everything's in the name of love. They're like the, I guess, almost die-hard romantics to the point of, completely losing themselves. So as you can imagine, that second one that I mentioned, Ludus, where you have someone who sees love a bit more as a game. It's not something that's sacred or something that's a special bond between two people. It gives this person the opportunity to have a sense of control and manipulation over another. Someone who falls into the category of feeling love in that mania phase is a perfect combination for someone who is Ludus. The last one's Pragma. So like you would expect, Pragma comes from pragmatic. So these are the people who, I guess if you're in that Eros, Agape sort of group where everything's a little bit more romantic and passionate, these are the other extremes. So it's not to say they don't feel the emotion as intense, they're just very pragmatic about who they select to be with. So like any big life decision, it's almost like a checklist. So they're looking for a partner who fits those categories of the things that they believe they need to have a life partner. So just like any big life decision, they're going to be careful about their selection. It's not going to be an emotionally driven thing. It's going to be very pragmatic. When we talk about the different attachment styles and the different love styles, so I sort of mentioned that briefly before. So Agape and Eros fit in nicely with the secure attachment. So for anyone who wasn't watching on Monday night, just briefly, secure attachment is when you feel very comfortable being close to your partner, but you're also comfortable doing your own thing. You're happy to be dependent on your partner, but at the same time you're happy for them to be dependent on you. There's generally a good level of openness and trust in that sort of relationship when you've developed a secure attachment. So Eros, which is that very passionate, very close intimacy, close emotional intimacy and close physical intimacy, that links in with that secure attachment, as does that Agape love, where it's a little bit more of a nurturer, so somebody who really wants to take care of their partner. Then we have Mania, which I mentioned was the one where you lose yourself, complete loss of identity, risk-taking behaviours. It usually burns very bright but burns out very quickly. Usually quite volatile sort of relationships that they enter into, people who have this way of expressing love as mania, like they don't feel like they're in love unless there's drama. This fits in with the anxious style of attachment. So if you remember back, anxious attachment generally occurs from an upbringing of either having very overprotective parents or having parents who are a little bit inconsistent, so they weren't necessarily there on a consistent basis to meet emotional needs or to help you develop that ability to self-soothe at times, and also sort of had to fend for yourself sometimes, but other times, they were helicopter parents and watching everything that you did. And then Ludus, which is the one where love is seen a little bit more like a game. It's not about having equality and partnership. It's also, okay, no worries, thanks Andrew. It's also about having control and manipulation over their partner, because it is a game. They see it as a power trip almost. So this is usually more the dismissing attachment. So this is the person who would have grown up with parents who were spread a little bit thin. They didn't necessarily have consistent stability there with their caregiver, so they learnt to fend for themselves, really. So you can probably equate those two and work out why they would then go on later in life to develop these sorts of, I guess, views of love, because it really depends on the attachment that you had as a young child and then how that was reinforced throughout your life, whether that be through your relationships at school, relationships as a young adult, and then even romantic relationships as an adult. So why is it all so important? Look, a lot of behaviours that occur within a relationship, both positive and negative, come right back to the style of attachment that we have. Like anything, if you're in a relationship where you've got some difficulties, things aren't quite working as they should, that's when we bother to stop and, I guess, take stock of these things. If everything's running along smoothly, then we don't really give it a second thought, because why would you if everything's honky-dory? So if things aren't going along as well as they should, this is when we take stock of, okay, why is this conflict occurring? You know, why am I so upset if my partner doesn't text me when they say they're going to text me, like the example I gave on Monday night. If your partner went out with some friends, they say they're going to text you at midnight when they get home, you don't hear from them till 1 o'clock. The different attachment styles react very differently in that scenario. But having a knowledge of, you know, your upbringing and the relationship that you have with your parents and the attachment style that you may have developed over the course of your life gives you a little bit of insight into why you react the way that you do. That's it, Asha, attachment theory. So I'll wrap it all up a little bit more on Friday, just to bring it all together and give you some more, I guess, concrete examples of why attachment theory is so important to understand. So it's not like you all have to go out and read a psychological textbook, but having that understanding of which attachment style you fit into, hopefully after we have a chat on Friday, you'll have a better understanding as to why, you know, labouring on about and why it is so important for you to have some awareness of where you're coming from, particularly if, you know, you've both got those different styles that tend not to work so well together, which is having someone who's very anxious and preoccupied as opposed to someone who's dismissing, and they sort of feed the worst parts of each other against one another. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is ways to improve it. But like any behaviour, the first thing is having the awareness of you having that style, and also how we can start to, I guess, rebuild self-confidence so that we're not drawing on our partner to meet a need that, you know, we need to meet ourselves. So look, thanks for jumping on, everybody. Oh, I just saw my son's name, Colin Finn. Hi. Don't see that name written up very often. Now, thanks so much for jumping on. If you like it, share it out, and I look forward to seeing you all on Friday, and we'll wrap up this topic, and yeah, have a great day tomorrow, and see you Friday. Bye.